Hey, happy, what the hell is it? Wednesday, November 2nd, everybody. Today we're going full Avatar today, simply because I'm doing a bunch of stuff that is not necessarily the most exciting stuff to look at while I'm doing it. Nothing dirty, but I'm just operating and doing some stuff, fixing a hard drive, attaching it to a new tower, and I have a mess behind me, even more usual than the the shed look that I usually have behind me. So we're just going to go with the avatar for right now. But welcome everybody. Thank you for joining with me on this early morning. As promised, I wanted to keep doing this on a semi-regular basis, and even if we don't have a overarching topic to discuss, that's when I turn it over to you guys. So before we get started, tonight's episode is brought to you, believe it or not, by Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures is home to such great movies as Top Gun Maverick. And there we go. It's not working. All right. Let me restart. There you go. Top Gun Maverick, now on Blu-ray. All right. Bring home Top Gun Maverick on 4K UH disc now. Tom Cruise stars as a spectacular action-packed epic, which critics are calling one of the greatest movies ever made. Buy Top Gun Maverick on 4K UHD disc and dive into over 80 minutes of incredible behind-the-scenes bonus content available at all participating retailers. Also available on digital, rated PG-13 from Paramount Pictures, and we will be doing some sort of giveaway later on this week as we promote the new arrival of Top Gun Maverick to Blu-ray 4K, and see this movie on the largest screen you have. I mean, I got a chance to see this movie in IMAX, and even though I saw it in IMAX, I'm not a physical media guy per se. I will be buying this. I want to see the 80 minutes of footage that they have on there. This movie was one of the best movies of the year, and for somebody who saw Top Gun Maverick or Top Gun in the theaters as a kid to be an adult 35 years later, and for it to be as exciting as it was, to be as good as it was, I was very happy with the movie, and thank you for Paramount for providing us with that. And like I said, at some point during one of these streams, we will be doing a giveaway of a Top Gun Maverick DVD or Blu-ray. So keep an eye out for that. And let me go ahead and say hi to my chat. My computer is moving really slow today, so I hope I'm not breaking up or roboting. So, all right, Stella, yeah, go ahead and hit the like button, share the stream on both my channel and Enosh's channel. Also, as I posted in the chat, now that we're moving up in the world, we have a much shorter URL. It's basically youtube.com/ at the Sci-Fi Center. It's that simple. You don't have to type in all the alphabet and everything else in there now. It's just that simple. So that link is right. I put it in the chat, and I'll probably put it in before I go. And it's also in the description. So yeah, it's real easy now. You don't have to type in an entire thesaurus just to get a hold of me or get to our channel. All right. Hey, Aaron, how are you doing? Marcus, are you excited for John Quick? Not particularly. I'm happy for Keanu Reeves, but John Wick movies just never really did it for me. I'm an action movie guy, but not that type of action movie guy. All right. Yep. There we go. There's me, and then there's the new YouTube, our YouTube handle. So it's whenever you get to YouTube, just that / the Sci-Fi Center. That's my own page. Like I said last night, we're working on content for that page. That's 5 and 10 minutes long. We do some live streams over there, but the majority of our live streams are going to be on Point Action Lounge, even though this one is simulcasted. We also have some ticket giveaways and live streams in support of movies that we will be doing. Like we have one coming up for Black Panther. We did one for Black Adam. We did one for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So some of you locals that are listening to this channel live, those are the type of things that we will be doing for you. And as we get tickets that we can do nationally, we've done national stuff too, to where no matter where you live, we're able to put you into some seats in a movie theater. So keep an eye on all that stuff. And Like I said, like, share, do all that kind of stuff, and help my tiny little train that can. So there you go. All right, Aaron Pritchard has our first question of the night. I mean, our second question after Marcus is, since the cancellation of Stargirls on CW, there's rumors that Superman and Lois is a follow suit soon. Do you see this happening? I say it's more than likely, simply because I think that the new group, if they do any more TVs, and remember that with the CW being purchased and them selling it, there's not going to be. I don't think they're going to be providing content for this new network, the OnStar or Comstar network, whatever they are. I think if there are series, that they would end up being on HBO Max. I don't know if they were drawing enough on the CW to give them the type of ad revenue that would justify them. So it's either going to head into cancellation, or it's going to go to HBO Max. Another thing you might want to consider, though, or you might have to be considered, is with the focus being on the cinematic Superman. Even though I think you can have as many iterations of characters as there's a market for. It all depends on what they prioritize. They could be one of these groups that says, you know what, we're only going to focus on the big screen, so and so first. However, these Supermans and these Batman and these characters that are on these different mediums serve different audiences. Just like, you could have two cinematic Batmans that serve two different audiences too. Robert Pattinson's Batman doesn't necessarily appeal to other Batman fans and vice versa. So they may keep him around just on that alone. But it all depends on what kind of numbers that an attraction that Superman and Lois is. So I'm not real sure. I have to see more of the Gunn and Safran operation to see what their priorities are as far as TV goes. All right. How you doing, H. Barts? All right. Question: what events of Dance of the Dragons do you think will be covered in House of the Dragon Season 2? Well, we're definitely going to cover Blood and Cheese. We're definitely going to cover, other than that, it all depends. We're not going to have any major time jumps. So we're basically going to be, that should be, given what happened at the end of season 1, the escalation should be up there to the point where you're going to start seeing some of the people that are Targaryens and, Valerians, bastards, that are not, official Targaryens or Valerians, but they need dragon riders because they don't have enough dragon riders to be able, with Valyrian blood to be able to ride the dragon. So you'll probably see some of those characters introduced. I would assume that you're going to start seeing a lot more violence, a lot more open warfare. But as far as the actual events and stuff goes, I don't know how they're going to line them up, and I don't know which ones they're going to make a priority, or if they're going to cut things to where we know them as events in the books, but they may just have certain aspects of it. But I definitely think that Blood and Cheese, for those of you who don't want to spoil yourselves, do not look up Blood and Cheese. But for those of you who know the sword content, yeah, with Aemon killing Lucerys, eye for an eye is what in the books, Daemon writes Rhaenyra a letter and says, an eye for an eye, a son for a son. So he means to take one of their sons from them. And it is going to be a defining moment that reminds you of just how ruthless and cold-blooded Daemon Targaryen is. So yeah, we got some stuff coming up with those guys that's going to really blur the lines of who you're rooting for in this show. Hey, Film Goblin, how you doing? Hey, Anthony Manzano, how you doing? You are in the chat. I think I'm reading that right. All right, Kinky Speaker, how you doing? Fires. On the live, right now for this particular one, I'm just going to keep these short before I start bringing in hosts and stuff like that. What I'm planning on doing is, once I get better organized, is I'm going to go, I'm going to have a call-in show. Probably have a call-in show Thursday or Friday night, one of those. And the reason, that way we can bring in people and give them a certain amount of time to go on with. And I want to do that when I have another co-host with me, so that they can kind of engage with you guys. Because like I said, at the end of my workday, I don't have a lot of throat left by the time I get to this. But yeah, later on during the week, I'm going to have you guys coming in, and we'll either do it one of two ways. We'll either give you limited, or we'll just bring everybody in on the screen, depending on how many we have, and then we'll go in a round robin, and you guys can we can go with that. But tonight, I'm barely scrapping it together, so that's why one of the reasons why I'm off screen. All right, question, topic of pop culture. What is your favorite period of history to research? Oh, wow. I am a historian at heart. I grew up in a military family and served in the military all over the world. So there is wow, that's a tough one. World War II, being military and having my grandfather serve in Berlin and serve in World War II, for the most part was probably my favorite. However, ancient Egyptian lore is also up there with me, as far as the eras, the pharaohs and the rulers. I mean, a lot of that stuff leading into Roman history. But if I had to pick the top two, ancient Egyptian history, and it's an even tie with World War II history. I haven't seen. What have you seen yet? Okay, did I miss something you said, Gob? Hold on. All right, I must have missed something you said. Sorry if I did. Repeat it if you want to, so I'll hit on it. All right, yeah. I'm sorry, Stella. I saw Barbarian. I hated that movie. And I hate it because it was so promising. For the first half hour to 40 minutes, it was such a promising horror movie. It was hitting all the right nerves. It was doing all the right things. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but there's certain things that just made it go real south for me. And it became traditional tropes. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, oh man, it was doing so well. And that I hated the ending. I hated the twist. And I'm like, it started out as one of the most unique type movies, horror wise, that I'd seen in a while. But by the time it was over, it turned into every horror movie, monster type movie I've ever seen. I wanted to like it, but it just didn't do it for me. That last half really sunk the ship. But thank you for recommending it to me, because, like I said, I watched it based on the recommendation, and I know a lot of people liked it. One of the guys, when I did my review, said it was his top film of the year, and I'm like, okay, I just didn't feel it. All right, Anthony Manzano. William, what sci-fi movie that you watched recently in the past 10 years and one you watched as a kid in theaters? Ooh, okay, let me repeat that again. My cadence is off. William, what sci-fi movie that you watched recently in the past 10 years and one you watched as a kid in theaters you found very annoying because of the horrible plot holes to the movie had? Let's see. Okay. Oh wow. I'm probably gonna go back uh to long before you guys are born. As a recently, a movie called Life. It was horrible and the plot was bad. Oh, I can tell you right now. Life, forget about Life. The Predator. The Predator, the 2018 version, with Keegan Tomlin or whatever that guy's name in it, the actual, with the kid in it and the Predator suit at the end. That was probably one of the worst science fiction movies I've ever seen, and that was a franchise movie. Look up the 2018 version of the Predator. That is a horrible movie. As far as when I was a kid, oh man, Megaforce. Megaforce was horrible. That was a Barry Bostwick in it, and the plot was it was like a pseudo Mad Max movie with 3D. That was the only thing that saved it. So Megaforce, I think it was like 1982, 1983. It annoyed me. And then 2018 version of Predator, The Predator. Those were two horrible movies. All right, how you doing? Fun. Yeah, they canceled that. Well, they're wrapping it up, but like I said, the CW, there just wasn't anything. It just wasn't a draw. And when you have network television, you have to have revenue more money to support its existence. And it just the CW shows just didn't have that kind of audience. Film Goblin, what will you mind joining live? Not tonight, but I promise you later on I'll get you guys in. I'm still getting a hang of all this, but I will get all you guys in, and mainly when I get Stella into the back room and I get Data on with me, because it's just I'm trying to organize a little bit better. But I will Film Goblin. I will get you on live with me before the end of the week. Tonight's just I'm still kind of throwing this show together. As far as like getting used to this time slot and deciding what I want to talk about. But later on, we'll have is it won't be all open mic. It'll just be I'll start out with topics and then we'll roll into the latter half of the show with open mic. All right. I don't like Tyler Hoechlin as Superman. To me, he never looked like Superman, like Cavill does. They've tried. I mean, the costumes are kind of throwing me off a little bit more, but the show is just it's hit and miss for me. It's hit and miss for me, and I'm ready for just a straight up Superman with no wife, no kids right now. All right, Tyler Hoechlin is good, but he's very surface level. Cavill brings the layers to the characters. I agree 100%. All right, I agree. The whole cheapness was showing with their. Well, to be fair, CW never really had a lot of money. CW never really had a lot of money because it never drew enough to where you could make a profit off of spending a certain amount of money. It had its budgets, and its budget was determined on its viewership and its ad revenue. Now, the old regime sucked for a lot of different reasons, but the CW was pretty much stranglehold like any TV show goes. The reason why TV shows get canceled, ratings is one thing, but ratings leads to ad revenue. And if nobody's watching, then how are you going to sell ad revenue to a show that, has a microscopic audience? So that was what killed CW. All right, Anthony Manzano, question. I'm a big Harry Potter fan growing up. With the books and movies, I'm wondering, are they still going to do a prequel series at Warner Brothers following the Marauders? That I don't know. See, I know there's a licensing issue. I know that I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers has them. That I'm not sure about. I have to do some research on that because I don't know what the state of the Harry Potter franchise. I know the last couple of movies didn't do what they wanted them to do, but once again, a lot of those were planned under a different regime. So now that we're under a new management group, they may take a look and they may do what I call the AAR and see what they can fix about those. You could get announcements of those sooner or later, but right now the priority for them, be honest with you, and this is not just because I'm a comic book nerd, seems to be straight up, getting DC. They consider DC their most important IPs that they have. Harry Potter's right behind it, but I just haven't heard anything. So, and this is why I'm going to start having a co-host on pretty soon because a lot of the stuff that I can't answer, I think Dave is a Potterhead. He'd be able to answer a lot of the stuff that for you. So I don't like leaving you guys without answers. So, all right, 2-2, the Black Sisters, serve snaps. Where they all, once again, I have to take a look and see what's going on as far as with the new studio heads and Pam Abdi and all these guys are looking as far as what they're going to do with Harry Potter. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you, but remind me about that. And like I said, I'll see if I can get with our other people who are Potterheads that can better answer that question for you. Sorry. I think part of the reason Black Adam hasn't done that great at the box office is because I think Rock Fatigue at the movies. Well, I think a lot of it is, I remember, and I said this months and months and months ago. All right, the biggest problem that Black Adam had was that it's Black Adam. All right, it is a lower tiered character with no other movies to support it. And I've always said that you could do these lower tier characters, no matter who's starring in them, as long as you have an infrastructure around them to where you're leading people up to that movie and you're leading people from that movie. And when you do that, you have a cycle. See, right now you're trying to do a Black Adam movie and all this other stuff that they were going to do, Wonder Twins and Blue Beetle and all these other announcements, everything but the Trinity. All right. And the expectation when you say, mention, or show DC Comics, that logo, the expectation is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, etc. You always hear about people saying that, well, it doesn't always have to be them, and they can do other characters, and we need to branch out. No. Eventually, yes, but you cannot put the horse before the carriage. You have to have those characters established. The only reason why most of these characters exist, Black Adam and Shazam are different situations because they came from Fawcett. But when you're talking about some of the lower tier characters that people always want to put out on the big screen, the only reason that those characters exist for the most part is because they came through in a Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and or Justice League collective story. 63% of all characters at one point in time came from a Justice League related story or a Justice League member story. That's how much oxygen they take up in the DC. Now, when you're putting these movies out, you're putting out movies, nobody knows who Black Adam is outside of us geeks. And as big as the star that The Rock is, and as much as he's self-promoted, there will never be one human that can pull that kind of, notoriety, other than, more notoriety for the character than the actual character itself. It doesn't matter who plays Superman at one point. Everybody knows who Superman is. You're always going to draw a certain amount of money just on the fact that it's Superman. It's certain, not a billion every time, like certain fools say, but you're always going to have a built-in traditional historical, audience when it comes to Superman, Batman. They may fight at each other and bite at each other's ankle all the time, but it's there. With Black Adam, you didn't have that. Even though the character has been around since the 40s, it has not been a featured character in a movie ever. All right. And it was the same thing with Shazam. Shazam did extraordinary with the 370 some odd million that it did. But these aren't the expectation. So part of the reason why Black Adam hasn't done great is because it's Black Adam. That's one. Okay, the Superman cameo that they added at the end. The problem with that is adding Superman helped it probably, and will probably help it get it, get over a certain hump. But at the same time, you had 9 months of the movie not being really promoted as well as it could have been. The trailers for Black Adam were not that good. All right, they were very repetitive, and they basically showed a lot of high spots, and then a lot of the actual story itself. So a lot of the things that can help another Black Adam do well is the fact that the regime that greenlit it and shepherded it in is gone. Because I don't see Peter Safran and James Gunn putting out the type of trailers that we endured over the last 6 to 7 months. I don't see Peter Safran and James Gunn, fiddle farting around. If they want a guest cameo or they want somebody in the movie, they're gonna get it. See, with The Rock had to fight everything he got. He had to fight just to get Superman, and they didn't even fit that in until September. The movie was released in October. So so when I list them down, the biggest thing that Black Adam had going against it, that it was Black Adam. It was a B-list character that nobody knew who the hell it was. All right. And there were no supporting movies. There was no real universe intact that you could really feed off of. Like I always say, you can put the talking raccoon and the talking branch and tree out there in movies and have Guardians of the Galaxy do well, only because of the Infinity Saga that surrounded it. If you put Guardians of the Galaxy, and just imagine there's no MCU to speak of. There's never been an MCU, and you try to put Guardians of the Galaxy in the movie theaters on its own, people are going to get fired. All right? People's careers are going to get sidelined. But because you had the cinematic connections to everything that led up to it, those movies did well. And that is everything that Black Adam did not have. It did not have an intact cinematic universe, a functioning one, leading up to it. And people can say that they want standalones all they want to. Standalones don't pay the bills like a connected universe does. And then you can now see that Black Adam was really hurt by the universe that it's set in not being a organized, functional one. So that's why I think Black Adam didn't do. And when you say it didn't do that great at the box office, It's a $300 million movie as far as cost. 100 as far as the budget goes, as far as the advertising budget, and then 200 as far as the production. Those are guesses. It can actually be a little bit more, a little bit less. So if it pulls near 400 or so, it's break even. There may be some other ancillary costs on there, but at the same time, you're going to make those up in physical media. You're going to make because DC does well in physical media, and whatever money that they make in China, even with the COVID lockdowns, it only, like I said, to get it to where it's a break even, it doesn't have to make bonkers over there. But even if it doesn't, let's say it doesn't, this movie had too much going up against it to really judge the results right now on any one thing. Most of the things that make it not doing what people consider not great at the box office have nothing to do with the people that are currently in power. So we only have better things to look. I don't think it's rock fatigue, though. Rock fatigue. I think it's just brand recognition. Nobody knew who the hell this character was. And then you have bad management behind it. All right, Anthony William, do you think we're ever going to see a biopic either on Douglas MacArthur? There's been several. Douglas MacArthur, George C. Scott did. I think he was either won or was nominated for an Academy Award for MacArthur. There's been several with Dwight Eisenhower. I think Tom Selleck played him at one time. It wasn't great, but MacArthur actually has a biopic. It's one of the greatest ones of all time. If you get a chance, look up George C. Scott and MacArthur. I'm pretty sure. Or Gregory. I'm sorry. George C. Scott played Patton. Gregory Peck did MacArthur. So you already got one there. But as far as the Eisenhower one, I haven't seen a really, 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 really good one. But we still got time. But Dwight D. Eisenhower is one of the great figures. And I don't think. Let's look up something here. Just Eisenhower. I can't believe after all this time, Eisenhower doesn't have a somebody playing him. All right, Eisenhower in film. Not that much. Yeah, see, he hadn't had that one big one. I mean, The Longest Day. He's part of it, but it's not about him. So yeah, Patton has one. That's with George C. Scott and MacArthur, Gregory Peck, which is a great movie. Go see it. But no, not one of Eisenhower yet. So I'll have to wait and see on that one. I wonder who would play him. I wonder you can get that. Gary Oldman can play anybody. So it could probably be him. So let's see. H parts. Question: have you seen All Quiet on the Western Front? Very good movie, and it's in German. Yeah, I saw that. Are you talking about the new one on Netflix, H Barts? Are you talking about the original? I've seen the original. I haven't. There's the All Quiet. There's a new one on I think Netflix that I have not seen. If you're talking about that one, no. The one I saw was the World War II movie. Or I'm sorry, World War I movie, the original. Hold on, let me look up that one. Yeah, okay. No, I have not seen. I've seen both the previous versions. I've seen the 1930 version. I've seen the 1979 version. I have not seen the 2022 version. So, and it stars. I did. Yeah, wow. I need to see this. Thank you for bringing this up. Answer that quick question. No, I have not, and I need to. Thank you for the headline. I'm copying this and sending myself an email. Anthony Manzano. And if they do biopics on those two American figures, Douglas MacArthur and Dwight Eisenhower, what actors would play them best? In modern times, I don't know. Every time I guess that, I end up being wrong because, like I said, look at what they did with the Penguin and Colin Farrell. I mean, makeup and they can turn anybody into anyone. And when it comes to Douglas MacArthur, I don't know. Gregory Peck looked like him. He sounded like him. He had the jaw. I mean, he had everything. I don't know if you can get better than Gregory Peck's performance. Hold on. I mean, I should have bring that. Greg. Oh, by the way, science fiction note attaching to Gregory Peck. Anybody who likes uh Star Trek, Strange New World, the um the guy who plays Spock is Ethan Peck, Gregory Peck's grandson. Let's see, yeah, MacArthur in 1977. It was Gregory. I just don't think you're going to get better than Gregory Peck. Dwight Eisenhower, maybe. I mean, like I said, both of them. Wow, who could play him? I mean, that's a tough one. I gotta think about that. Um, I mean, I want to throw Benedict Cumberbatch and everything. He could probably play a modern day MacArthur with makeup. Gary Oldman. Um, wow, that's a tough one when it comes to Eisenhower. I've never really thought about it, but that's a tough one. I'm gonna call alibi on that one and get back to you, Anthony, because that's actually a pretty good question. In all honesty, I can see Chris Reeves Boy Scout Superman fight against someone like Darkseid. Only post Crisis New 52 Superman. It's gonna be hard for it would have been hard for me because of the type of Darkseid. The only Darkseid I've seen on live screen is the Ray Porter version that we saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I don't know if that Superman could, but a lot of that is going to be as depending on who's writing it. See, when you say that, I can see where you're coming from because I would be coming from the same space. But at the same time, if you give me a good screenwriter that makes that, say we have a Superman that is, we have a bunch of Superman from different eras that are all fighting Darkseid because he's traveling, back and forth in time trying to find the anti-life equation. I'm just throwing that out there. If you could write a story to where that Superman of that era that represents that era is fighting alongside other Supermen, I could see things like that. It would all depend on how you write it though. But yeah, it's the Boy Scout Superman, and also remember that I think a different villain would bring a different side of a Reeve Superman out of him. I don't think you would be able to, if you put Darkseid in there, you would not be able to write a Boy Scout Superman. I think the writers would have been, even in that era, would have been able to see that. So, all right, H-Barge, if you want a better Barbarian, there's a Netflix German show called German show that Rosa's defeat at Turnberg Forest. I don't know, man. I think I need to watch something that cleans my head out of Barbarian because that, especially some of that's gross, by the way. And I'm a guy who likes gore, but Barbarian was kind of nasty. Rome, not roses. I got what you meant. Film Goblin. I also find it funny how haters of Snyder's films don't seem to care about having a cohesive plan for a DCEU and just only want Boy Scouts. Like I said, it's these guys are starting to fade. The people who basically made it their lot in life to hate Snyder movies, even if they were never going to see them in some cases, are starting to fade. And I think what helped there is Zack Snyder's Justice League. You seeing the full vision of what he really meant to do and where he was taking those characters. I heard a lot of people that were stuck in the mud about Zack Snyder's films that even they praise that movie. And when you get a chance to see that, you get a chance to like say to yourself, "Oh, okay, now I see where he's going." And so I'm giving a lot of these old haters time to take a look at these movies in retrospect and take a look at movies like Zack Snyder's Justice League where it all comes together, and I'm seeing their minds change. Also, time helps. Remember, as I always said, a lot of these guys who only had Christopher Reeve as their live-action Superman, they wouldn't take anything else. And then the bad management tried to make a movie to cater to those guys, even though that the time for that Superman had come and gone. But I think that if you continue to make good movies with Superman, eventually those people will be inspired and those people will grab onto it. That's what they ultimately did. A lot of the people who did not like Man of Steel, it took them a time to come around, but eventually they embraced Superman. They embraced Henry Cavill, and that's why Henry Cavill's back. He wouldn't be back if there wasn't demand for him, and we showed that there was a demand for him. All right, and people wanted Jonathan Kent to die in the same way as 1978 movie, which shows lack of creativity and imagination. Yeah, like I said, we can't shoehorn our childhood on the present. That's always going to be a disaster. Fourth 1000. Hey, how you doing? You're another one. your shirt should be on the way by the end of the week. And yours was, I think you just ordered a shirt. You may have ordered comics. All you guys that had shirts, and I'm throwing some comics in there anyway because I got so many of them. So even if you didn't request a comic, you're getting it, and it doesn't change the weight of the price of the shipping. For those of you who I do email and say anything about it, for the most part, I have them all going out in a batch. So you know, if you have not gotten a message from me, that means you're not going to have to worry about shipping. But just be advised, when you unfold your T-shirt, there's going to be a Black Adam comic in there because we got tons of them, and I got to get rid of them. So all right, I'm glad you enjoyed Black Adam, by the way. All right, Ho Chillin looks Walmart brand Superman. Tyler Hoechlin. Yeah, well, that's the budget. That's the budget they had, unfortunately. Anthony Manzano, MLB. William, I'm a fan of Man of Steel, and so I'm wondering what comics was that Superman modeled after. That Superman was modeled, in my opinion, okay, in the same vein as Kingdom Come. And a lot of the stuff that came about in mid 80s, but in my opinion, and other people will differ from this because they're all going to come from different. In my opinion, the Mark Waid Kingdom Come Superman, even though that Superman was a much older Superman by the time Kingdom Come starts, his sense of morals, his the entire way that he's looked upon as a god in there. If you look at Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, you see that one of the biggest parts of Zack Snyder's story there is how would the modern world look upon this guy. You know, half of them it would be look at him as a god, and the other half would look at him as a threat. And when you read Kingdom Come, superheroes in general have become just as big a threat to society as any villains. In fact, they actually become a bigger threat because they end up wiping out villains. And superhumans in Kingdom Come are held to a godlike standard. And I always felt that that's what Zack Snyder was going for when he would design that Superman. So that's just my opinion. We could get like 10 million people and they would have 10 million different ones, but that's my opinion. So there you go. Hunter Iggy, William Powell, Mikey Sutton says Skywalker, the Jedi YouTube channel. All right. Mikey Sutton said on Skywalker, the Jedi YouTube channel, they say Amazo will be in Man of Steel 2. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard any announcements. I hope it's Brainiac. Like I said, I'll say over and over again, please give me Brainiac. He's one of the best Superman villains of all time, and he can attack Superman on so many different levels. Other than Darkseid himself, but Darkseid usually requires Superman to be alongside the Justice League. But when it comes to one-on-one, Brainiac is one of my favorite all-time villains for Superman. I would love to see him. Amazo could work, but I think it's time to go big with the villains. I think it's time to go big with somebody who has the capability, even if it's not man on man, strength versus strength. He has the intellectual ability and the technological ability to take on Superman in a way I don't think Amazo does. I mean, but once again, no wrong answer there. If they write it right, they could just put anybody in there. But if you want an attractive villain that represents a lot of history, I mean, going back to the City of Kandor, I mean, there's just so many things that you could do, and you could do multiple arcs with him too. So haven't heard anything about Amazo personally. I only get my news from certain sources. Nothing against these guys, but I don't get twisted up in some of the rumors because it gets my hopes up too high or gets them down too low. So now I just wait. Waiting to see what's happening. Fourth 1000, Black Adam's problem is you have to take a chance to see if it's pretty good. Visually, the packaging looks very generic on the surface. It doesn't say watch this movie. Yeah, there's nothing that, even during the movie itself, there's really nothing that says you got to see this over and over again. It's not like, when I went to go see Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049, it was like I couldn't wait to see it over again. I couldn't wait to spread the gospel. And I was spreading the gospel that it is a good movie. And like I said, we promoted the movie. So I'm not biased in that respect. I said what the flaws are, even though we promoted that movie along with Warner Brothers. I openly on my own channel and on Enosh's channel and anywhere else that the movie has issues. It's not a perfect movie, but it is fun. And if you're wanting to go have fun at the movie theaters, which is, I think, the whole point, it meets that mark. All right, Anthony Mazzano, William, if they have a live action Green Lantern again, which Green Lantern would you want to see in live action? For me, it's John Stewart. Me, it's Hal Jordan. A disclaimer though, depending on what story we're telling. Obviously, if we're telling an origin story of how we get a Green Lantern on Earth, because Hal Jordan is the first Green Lantern of Earth. He's not the first Green Lantern of Section 2814, obviously. Other alien species have guarded the planet. But in the modern era, as far as the power of Oa, not Alan Scott, but the actual power bring from Oa, it would be Hal Jordan. So if you're telling a story of how that encounter happens, then it would have to be Hal Jordan, because he was the original one. He was the original one that joined the Justice League. He's, but if you're just going to tell a modern story of Green Lantern, John Stewart's just fine. There are as many people that are familiar with John Stewart as they are with Hal Jordan, to be honest with you. And a lot of you guys, if you are of a certain age, didn't have Hal Jordan as your Green Lantern for most of your life. If many of you remember, and I was actually a dealer. I was actually open. This is one of my first years I was open at the Sci-Fi Center. Was when it was called Asylum Comics. It was just a small 700 square foot comic book store. And one of the major stories that were coming through was called Emerald Twilight and Emerald Dawn. And this was just after the resurrection of Superman. And what was happening is how Jordan's city, his home city, was destroyed. And he was using his powers to resurrect the entire city, which is against the Green Lantern rules to use the ring for selfish acts. So he goes crazy and he just starts going after all the Green Lantern, and he wants all the power in the world to be able to permanently resurrect the city, all the people he lost. So he goes crazy, and he ends up becoming a being called Parallax. The Guardians end up sacrificing themselves to create one ring, and Ganthet gets that one ring to a Green Lantern called Kyle Rayner. This was back in 1995. So this is 26, 27 years ago. A lot of you on this channel aren't that old. So for the most of your lives, you had the cartoon Green Lantern, which is John Stewart, and you've had, if you collected the comics for most of that time, you had Kyle Rayner as your Green Lantern. But for the first 50 years of his existence, it was Hal Jordan, which is the one you saw in the movie, the 2011 movie or 2012 movie. So I would be okay with either one. It depends on where we pick up the story of the Green Lantern, which would decide the best. If it's an origin story, obviously it has to be. If it's because how John Stewart's origin isn't that spectacular. The Green Lantern Corps is already formed. There are already Green Lanterns on Earth when he comes about. So either one would be fine. But like I said, I could see why they would go with John Stewart, because a lot of kids and people and millennials will only have known him in their lifetime. So all right, Sith Holocron, I still love that name. I wish people would be a little bit more calm about connecting Black Adam and Shazam. It's obvious that they connect when you watch the movies. Even the Marvel movies didn't connect that way. And here's the thing about Black Adam is the original intent for Black Adam was supposed to include, or original intent for Shazam was supposed to include Black Adam. But if you read the interviews, what ended up happening with Black Adam is that his story was so complex that they thought it required its own movie. Remember, Seven Buck Productions did both Shazam, Black Adam, and the next Black Adam that's coming, or Shazam that's coming out. So his presence outgrew what that was supposed to be. Dwayne Rock Johnson always wanted to play Black Adam and be in a Black Adam movie, but they just thought there was just too much story there to try to give him a piece of Shazam, just give him his own whole movie. And also, you got to be careful because neither one. It wouldn't have really mattered, in my opinion. I don't think. I don't think the connection right at the beginning of all this would have made that much difference because a lot, like I said, I hosted a screening when we supported Black Adam, wearing which you now know, and you can see it in this little picture here, which you, if any of you have ever seen me on air, you now know is my standard work shirt for the Sci-Fi Center, which is a Shazam shirt. I wore this. I had these made to hand out at the Shazam screening, and I'm handing them to people who, for the most part, didn't know who the hell Shazam was. So they're definitely not going to know who Black Adam was. So I don't think the connection was as important early on as it will be in the future. Because, like I said, people just don't know who these characters are yet. All right, William, can Martian Manhunter work as a standalone live-action movie, or does he have to be part of an ensemble like Justice League? Martian Manhunter can actually do both. I don't know how it would do in theaters financially, though. Because once again, even though he's one of the founding members of the modern Justice League and both eras, I mean, he's been around forever. He's never been a featured character. A lot of people have seen him on cartoons, but once again, I know people love those cartoons, but the audience size of those cartoons are not as big as a lot of people think they are. So, but when you're talking about the general audience, which is 20 times that size, a lot of them are not going to know who he is. So a standalone movie with him would be tough unless, and this to answer your second half of your question, if he's in a Justice League movie and he's alongside the Trinity and the big names and people get to see him, then I think obviously like in Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the next time you see him, if he's in a Superman movie or he's in a Batman movie, if you put him alongside those type of characters first and then you head out to a solo movie, you have a chance. But I think he'd get slaughtered at the box office if you just try to do a standalone right now. All right, William, if they do another historical figure biopic, people I want to see is Andrew Carnegie, Alan Pinkerton, or Cornelius Vanderbilt. You know what? I don't know. Well, who knows what movie makers will do? Those are all make good movies, but I am assuming you probably know if you watch the History Channel, the Men That Built America, all of those guys are featured, and actually Alan Pinkerton is actually featured on American Heroes Channel because of the Pinkerton organization and how he was guarding Lincoln and all that stuff. I don't know when we'll get a movie, but there's a lot of good content on the History Channel with those guys if you ever get a chance. All right, movie breaking even is not a win, especially for a DCU land. Yeah, I'm going to disagree in this case. In this case, it's a win. Simple because it's not their movie. They inherited this movie in a year that is going to be a complete loss for the company anyway. So this money, Black Adam could have done $1 billion. You'd have had some bragging rights, but financially, what they're having to write off and what they inherited, well, WBD isn't making any money this year, and they've written off the whole year. They're just cutting right now, cutting so that the tax laws and the tax breaks benefit them for in the future in the next quarters. And all they were trying to do with this movie is pretty much do what they could for this movie, which was not much. By the time they got their hands on this movie, all that they could really do is add the cameo in it and put a little bit more money on the back end as far as like making sure more markets got more swag, which is why I got my stuff. But under normal circumstances, for it, you will be 100%. But when you're talking about a movie that a new management group inherited it, that's a new word, inherited, and they had no real say in how this movie came about. There are things that a better management group could have done to make Black Adam a better movie. They could have added, when you're doing these dailies, which is what these production companies do when they send them up to the people that are funding the movie, the actual studio, which is Warner Brothers. Studios look at them and say, hey, now we need this. We like where you're going with this, but we need more of this. Take that out. I now keep in mind who that oversight would have been while this movie was being made and what we kind of think of them. I would have loved to have seen the circumstances if this movie would have taken place under the complete time regime of David Zaslav and Gunn and Safran. So there's really not much they can do for this particular movie. You know, it was never going to be a win for them anyway. You know, because like I said, it just wasn't their film. So in DCEU land, hey, well now it's DCU, but like I said, I think that enough of us realize now the win for DCEU is going to come. You know, it's getting Superman back on the air. To be honest with you, the biggest thing that for the overall corporation, DC Studios and Warner Brothers Discovery is putting Superman back on the chessboard. That is the biggest thing, regardless to what Black Adam draws. And people might say that Superman didn't move the needle. It's a 10-second cameo that was jammed in there at the last minute that wasn't as hyped up. And in the absence of Superman for 5 years, but it doesn't matter. He is now a player piece that these new studio heads have to play with, and it's only going to go up from there. But breaking even for a company like Warner Brothers, a new company like Warner Brothers Discovery that's going to lose billions this year because of a merger, wins and losses are subjective, I think. All right, William Amazo will be the second villain with Brainiac and Man of Steel, if that's the title name. Like I said, that's going on scoops and stuff. I haven't seen anything official about it, but like I said, once you start with Brainiac, you're you know, I don't know where a lot of this. Like I said, I know my colleagues and on YouTube go back and forth with some of these scoopers. I am done with that. I just don't refer to a lot of them, because even if they're 100% right, things change. So I don't put too much weight in what anybody who has inside information said, because inside information changes. So that doesn't mean like that person doesn't know what they're talking about or a liar or anything, but things change and the information changes with it. And we end up getting a scrambled egg type of situation trying to figure out things. At this point, I think we're in good enough hands to where I'm just going to let them announce it. But, Brainiac to me would be a logical choice. Amazo, I'm not too sure on. All right, Lexi J. Looks like Renee miscarried a deformed lizard-like baby. The baby was malformed, and when they in the books they said it had a dragon tail, it was really just an umbilical cord. And remember, a lot of that stuff was second, third-hand information. Also, you have to remember that a lot of the Targaryen babies had issues, because remember, that's her uncle, her full-blood uncle, and his parents, I think, were ancestral. I mean, there's a lot of chromosomes and genes and stuff in that family and remember, that is why it's so hard for them. A lot of their women die in childbirth. Even Dany's, Daenerys, her mother died in childbirth. Amma died in childbirth. Even the Valerians, remember all the childbirth that died, because a lot of it is the inbreeding and the deformity of the babies in the womb. So yeah, it's a tough one, dude. There's more childbirth death in this in that show than I care to regard. Oof. John Pershing needs a movie on him. Yeah. Like I said, I love historical movies, man. I love historical movies. I love historical documentaries more than anything, but I'll take a historical movie too. Hi, a colonizer Jeebus. Okay, you went from monkey Jeebus to a werewolf Jeebus, and now you are a colonizer Jeebus. I love it. All right, Gregory Peck's Gunslinger is awesome. Gregory Peck in general is awesome, man. I mean, Gregory Peck is one of the most kick-ass actors of his era. Rest in peace. Film Goblin. I remember when I went to go see Superman Returns, I was bored and confused as to why it was so silly at the time. Yeah, it's because they tried to take the '80s and transplant them into 2006, and then it's nostalgia works up to a point, and then it doesn't. Yeah, I was talking about. Yeah. I just pulled it up. I have not seen that Netflix version yet, but dude, I got so much shit on Netflix I gotta watch. That is the biggest problem with this whole streaming existence. There's just so much stuff, and I'm behind. And I'm like, every time somebody recognizes me, and I'm like, oh, and I look at my queue, and I'm like, oh, I'm pathetic. So I'm gonna have to take some time where I do nothing but watch TV and watch these shows. Colonizer Jeebus William. Uh, you check that out. I'm not muted. I'm broadcasting from one source. So if you all can hear me here, then you should be able to hear me on that channel. Let me check real quick. Let me mute myself here and go back. But yeah, I'm broadcasting from the same StreamYard session, so I should not be muted anywhere. But let me hold on. All right, Jeeves, I just checked. I'm coming in loud and clear over there, so it might be on your end, boomer. I'm not a boomer, by the way. All right, I'm tired of hearing that term when it's used to. I am a proud card-carrying member of Generation X. You damn millennials need to get that math straight. Damn it. For 1,000. If Chris Reeves Superman fights Darkseid would turn into a joke. It all depends on who's. I mean, when you say it like that, yeah, and on the surface, yeah, but you put together a good screenplay. I don't know. I think we could probably, it would have to be handled very carefully. You just couldn't throw anybody out there to do it. It would have to be handled carefully so that you gave respect to that era Superman and Darkseid. But it all depends on what the story is too. The story would dictate a lot of the whether it's a joke or not. Watch Terrifier 2. Yeah, I've seen Terrifier 2. I was trying not to remind myself that I've seen that movie. Wow. That movie is fucked up. I didn't think anything could get worse than Terrifier, the original. That movie's fucked up. You need to wash your brain out after seeing Terrifier 2. Holy shit. No group watch there. Anthony William, can you blame it on both sides? Also, that okay, William, can you blame it on both sides? Also, that there are hardcore Snyder fans that aren't really fans of superhero movies, saying Zack wouldn't have been doing shouldn't have been superhero movies. Hold on, let's see. I don't quite understand the question, so I'll do my best here. I don't know too many hardcore Snyder fans that weren't fans of superhero movies because that's predominantly what he had done. He did Dawn of the Dead, he did Sucker Punch, and then he did 300. That's a comic book movie, and then he did Watchmen. So most of his movies right now have been comic book superhero movies. I personally, I can't answer that question from the only other point of view I know is mine, and I don't know too many hardcore Snyder fans that aren't superhero movie fans. Now there are people who are not going to be fans of his non superhero stuff. Or say, go ahead and watch like Rebel Moon and stuff like that, and that's not all he can do, and that's true. I don't know too many fans that all of my Snyder brethren are all mostly started with him when he entered the superhero era. Many of them had to go back and watch Dawn of the Dead and Sucker Punch and all that. So for most of the people I know, Man of Steel was the first movie that they saw of Zack Snyder, and it went from there. So I can't really answer that question because I don't have any info perspective. All right, Kinky, Boy Scout Superman is of the pastime. Change is not everything. It's happy and gleeful and dark and sad. Needs to be perfect mixture of Zack and Henry leading up to. Yeah, what you're seeing with what you would have seen if Zack had a chance to continue was the evolution of the character, the complete journey. We only got to see three quarters of the journey. We never got to see the rest of the journey because the old management pulled the rug from under us. But I think at the end of that journey, you would have seen a much more rounded, grounded, happier Superman. That's just a matter of where the story was going, the logical end of the story. No problem, Fourth. I got to get with Clint, or Clint, if you're in the chat, let me know. Clint's handling that. I think your Grogu went out to the one address. There might have been a question. I don't know if I was splitting your stuff up with it, but I think I had one address and that's where it went to. But let me check when I'm at the store tomorrow. Text me and you have my number, Stella. Text me and remind me. Big Dub reaction. Where did I get that world title? If you're referring to the big gold that I have slung over my shoulder, I got it overseas from a belt maker. That's a handmade belt from RM champion Hamyard Championship belt. A guy named Muhammad Arham handcrafted it for me, down to my specs and down to the sheen and the shine on it. I wanted it to shine a certain way. The nameplate, Ric Flair, and the size and the weight. He did it by hand, and he sent me pictures. That belt is actually something I sell at the Sci-Fi Center. That's actually why I have it. That's why you see me wearing it. And that these pictures, that is actually something you can have made. I can have it made to custom for you, and I can send it anywhere in the world, or have it sent anywhere in the world. That belt does not have a copyright on it because that belt design, WWE uses a version, but that version has their logo on it because they didn't want to use a belt that had no copyright on it. So the big gold belt does not have a copyright, so it allows us to be able to manufacture and sell that belt. But yeah, I got that belt from a belt maker named Muhammad Arham from Hamar Championship Belts, and he made that one for me, and I love that thing. Like I said, I've had it featured on some of my other shows, and I could be having the crappiest day in the world. All I have to do is look over on my shelf and see that belt there, and it literally, I crap you not, makes my day better. Something it does with the chemical imbalance in my head when I see that big belt. That belt meant a lot to me as a child or as a wrestling fan growing up. It is synonymous with Ric Flair in that era of wrestling. And and it has to be that era. I don't care about the WWE version where they graffiti didn't put their logo on it, but that belt right there, that is the belt as it was done for Ric Flair in 1986 with the brown strap on it. Whenever you see that belt, it looks black. It's not. It's actually a brownish reddish strap, but because of sweat, beer, and oil, it turned it black. But that's how that belt would have looked in the modern era. So, yep, I love that belt. All right, Manzano, can fantastic superheroes like Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, and Aquaman work in Matt Reeves' movies? No, and because of the design of his atmosphere and his Batman, and not only being the central focus of that universe, but they have created an environment that would make it sort of ridiculous to have those characters in their forms that we know them of. So you would have a different type of character. So Martian Manhunter will be a shapeshifter with that, but his means of transforming would be so grounded that you wouldn't see it. I don't think a Superman would fit into that world because that world revolves around Matt Reeves and the Batman. And it would be a different type of Superman that I think people would have an issue with anyway. Wonder Woman, I just don't see it. And that's what's cool about having the shared universe in the DCU is that they can do that. And those characters were designed and their atmosphere was designed along with them so that they fit and that they work. It's the same reason in comic books that if you pick up Detective Comics or Batman solo comics, it is written differently than when he's teaming up with the Justice League. There's just different elements of his personality that shine through depending on the story that he's written in. There you go. I always know that it's some form of Jeebus when he cracks a age joke. And by the way, Buddy Landell wasn't wrestling when that belt came out. So there. William, when it comes to Matt Reeves' Batman universe, what grounded superheroes in DC Comics can work in that universe with Robin Pattinson, Batman? All of Batman's villains could. I could see a different version of Mr. Freeze being a serial killer or being a criminal that freezes people somehow cryogenically or does things like that. I could see Clayface being somebody that uses modern technology to change shape and to change his form. Obviously, you've seen the Joker there already. You've seen the Riddler there already. I could definitely see. I think Matt Reeves is. I know it's a over brought up particular group of villains, but I think Matt Reeves Batman is designed for Court of Owls. I think Ra's al Ghul would be great in this universe. So there's a lot. There's a lot. And remember, you only have two more movies left of them because he's only doing a trilogy. So just those names alone, I think, would do well with them. Fun, fun. What's the next DCU movie scheduled to come out after Black Adam? It is Shazam in March. And we will be promoting that one too. All right, William, you should talk to Jerry and Keith at Pop Culture Minefield about Blade Runner. I do not know who they are. Do me a favor, Jeebus, if you can put a link in the chat or who they are in there to their page, or put it in the comment section. I don't know who they are, and if they're in the Blade Runner, I need to know who they are. We're all brothers. Anthony William, with the reactions that he is getting coming out of Wakanda Forever from critics, do you think Marvel is going to do a standalone Namor? Oh, definitely. I think they'll do they're going to do a Submariner movie. I definitely think they're going to do. I don't think they'll do a show. I think they'll actually do a movie. Submariner is a really important character, and he's a very dynamic character, and I really love the look. I didn't think I would. I love that look. I love the bone in the nose could go, but I love that headdress. I love that actor. He looks cool, and I thought it was going to look ridiculous with the wings on flying, and they made that look cool. So he's definitely. I even know what they're going to call it. I can tell in the future. It's just going to be called a Submariner because that's his traditional. That's the traditional name that the men on the Landwalkers gave him, and he likes to intimidate. William, with James Gunn going to DC Studios, who do you think Marvel and Kevin Feige will replace James Gunn with? I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't want to give you an answer, a fluff answer that I don't have. I don't know. It's all too soon. So, all right, Damon and Viserys' parents. So yeah, Damon and Viserys' parents were a brother and sister. So yeah, so you already have you got some jammed up genes. And even with the Baratheons, Joffrey was crazy, partly because he was their firstborn. He was well inbred, brother and sister. So that's kind of gross. All right, it's working now. All right, so I'm not a boomer anymore. Cool. Question, William, do you use Tubi? And if so, what do you watch? I have only used Tubi a few times, and that was to look at some old horror movies that were not in circulation at the time. But I do have the app on my phone. Caden Reed. Oh, who let this jackass in? No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Caden, thanks for coming in. Since Crystal Lake has been announced with the return of Pamela Voorhees and every other horror icon has been making a comeback, where's Freddy? Hopefully not around for a while. And I'm really not on board with this prequel. I listen, come up with some new ideas, guys. Come up with some new. Give this generation it's Jason. Give this new generation it's Freddy. Give these new kids and these millennials, their own horror icons. Stop recycling the ones that we grew up with. The ones that we grew up with had their time in their place. The slasher 80s will never be replaced. All right. The 80s, as far as slasher movies and these type of movies go, had an aura around it that you just cannot replicate. And Friday the 13th best movies were all in the 80s. Every single one of them. From the first one in 1980 until the last good one, in my opinion, which was number 5, arguably number 6. All of those took place, and it came out every year. There was a new Friday the 13th every year, and these remakes and the problem I have with the remakes, especially when it comes to Jason's and the Michael Myers and the Freddy's, they tend to explain the things that just went decades without being explained, and that was fine. They're trying to explain the unexplainable and what doesn't need to be explained. I don't need to know why Michael Myers is the way he is. I don't need to know that why Jason is the way he is. I don't care. I stopped caring about Pamela Voorhees when her head ended up on the table. Sorry, spoiler alert. It's been 42 years. I just don't care. And Freddy, even though I thought Jackie Earle did a great job as Freddy, it just wasn't the same as Robert Englund. So I think you're putting these actors sometimes and these people in a hard spot because they're trying to fill some shoes that you cannot fill because it's not the 80s. All right, so it's just my opinion. Kinky, we all need something like that belt that makes your day. But yeah, it does, man. And like I said, I everybody goes through ups and downs, but like I said, when I can go walk over and pick that thing up, as heavy as it is, and just sit there, put it in my lap, and stare at it, it literally makes me feel better. You know, because of the connection I have to it, with Ric Flair, and the kind of wrestling fan and I have other wrestling belts, by the way. That's a story. I have a lot of you know I follow New Japan, and I have a New Japan World a heavyweight title. I have a New Japan US title, and but this belt here, even though the IWGP version 4 that you guys see me have around my shoulder on some of these avatars, is my favorite belt. This one is my favorite item that I have. Period. This belt that you see on my shoulder is one of my most favorite items that I have, period, in any collection that I have, whether it's models, toys, comics, doesn't matter. This might be my favorite thing that I own right there. So and it just makes me feel better. All right, William, I made a mistake. It's not Amazon Amazo. It's going to be Metallo. So Supergirl can. Once again, I just have to wait and see. Um, it's Superman villain. So I don't know. Like I said, I know the rumors are out there, but I just don't know where these guys are at on their plans, and I don't want to speculate on it yet. It'll be fun to talk about. I just right now with a new DC studio head in place. One of them is very social media savvy, so we'll probably be hearing. I think the era of hearing it from these other sources might be coming to an end, because we're gonna have the actual horse's mouth talking to us a lot more, because that's what kind of person James Gunn is. So we'll wait and see. All right, thank you. I am going to click on that when the show's over. Jeebus, thanks. All right, after seeing Black Adam, I think Aldous Hodge would be a great T'Challa. I think Aldous Hodge would be great. There is a couple. If you guys ever watch Star Trek Discovery, there is a character called Book. You know, he's got his cat and everything. Look up him. I think he would be great. There's Denzel Washington's son. His name is slipping me at the moment. David Washington. He would be great. You know, but anybody that they got, because remember, I know Chadwick Boseman was doing other stuff, Get On Up in 42, but a lot of people didn't really have the widespread knowledge of him until he took on the role of Black Panther. So it could be a relative unknown. I just want them to recast T'Challa, because I think that's no matter how much I enjoy this movie, I'm going to be sitting there with a big hole in my heart and in the story, because I'm going to see a Black Panther movie without the Black Panther in it. And I'm not talking about a Black Panther or black people in Black Panther costume. I'm talking about T'Challa. All right. William, what movies from the Clark Gable and Gregory Peck era do you recommend? Because I've heard a lot of good things are from. Ooh. Gregory Peck, MacArthur, obviously later in his life. Actually, you know, he lived 30 more years afterwards. But To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah, I'm going to say To Kill a Mockingbird. He won an Academy Award for that. Those two right there will get you started. As far as Clark Gable, I didn't really see a lot of Clark Gable stuff on my own. My sister, who is a film student, loves him. Wow, dude, Clark Gable. I mean, let's look down his list. I know I've seen a lot of his movies. Well, The Misfits. I mean, he's got a couple of different ones that Soldier of Fortune. I've seen that. It's mostly his earlier stuff. I'm looking right now. There's only a few movies that I've seen of him. Yeah, when it comes to yeah, he did a lot of war propaganda stuff. But yeah, he did The Misfits, The Tall Man, Soldier of Fortune. Those are a lot of movies that I saw because my sister watched them. But I did not jump into Clark Gable as much as as much as she did, but Gregory Peck I did. I mean, Killing Mockingbird is Sidney Poitier. I mean, you're talking about some of the best ever there. So I would start with those, but would definitely when it comes to Gregory Peck for sure, start with Killing Mockingbird, and then later on in his career with MacArthur. Chuck Cage, do you think we'll have a Punisher and Norman Osborn and Armor Wars? I'm gonna say no, because I think they probably have those characters reserved for other stories. But I could be 100% wrong. I have it on no authority that they would or would not be in there. I think Norman Osborn is a character that they were most likely reserved for a different iteration if they've as far as like for this universes or for with their universe of Spider-Man. I think he would be an excellent enemy for them. As far as Punisher goes, they also have Daredevil, so I think that those would probably be the vehicles that they use to reintroduce those characters in. But I could be 100% wrong. So, all right, William, do you have an original United States champion from AWA? I had not the AWA. I don't have any AWA belts. I had one at one time for the NWA, the old one with the two flags on it, the one that Barry Windham had, Lex Luger had like 5 times. I had that one at one time, and I traded it. Hey, Chappie, how you doing, man? William, did you see the rumors apparently that the backstory for Kang the Conqueror in the MCU is that he's the older version of T'Challa and Nakia's son? I have not heard those rumors. They're gonna catch a lot of shit if they do that. That they would catch a lot of shit. They're already gonna catch a lot of shit of depending on how Black Panther ends. And I don't want to give any spoilers or anything like that, but I think that if they did that, jeez, I don't even want to be there for that conversation. H. Bart, do you think that Marvel is using Tag with Death badly? It feels off. Yes. I said that from the beginning. I think you're using the real life tragedy to tell a fictional story that they would not have told had that person not died. And like I said, I am going to judge Black Panther: Wakanda Forever on the quality of the movie, but there's just going to be an inescapable fact that I am watching a memorial, and they've said as much, that it's a memorial, a tribute to him. I don't go to the movies for tributes or memorials. I go to graveyards. I go to funeral homes. I go to churches. I go to vigils. I go to statues for memorials. I don't go to the movies for memorials. So I am, no matter how good this movie is, and if it's a 10 out of a 10, I'll say it. But that is an inescapable fact that is going to be something that is going to hang over me, whether I want it or not, because it's the truth. They altered their fiction story to fit a real life tragedy, and I think that sets a horrible precedent. Stella, Gregory Peck, Killing Mockingbird, Clark Gable, it happened one night. Oh, damn it. Did I forget Gone with the Wind? Oh, wow. It is getting late. I mean, yeah, that's probably his most famous film. Gone with the Wind. I've seen that a billion times. So there you go. Thank you, Stella. Wow. Old. Chappie, did you hear that Winnie the Pooh Blood Honey is getting a limited theaters and the team behind it is doing Peter Pan? Yes, I did. And I am still in contact. It's getting a Fathom release, like a one night release or something like that. And I am in contact with Jagged Edge Productions, and we've been going back and forth. We're just trying to set up. I want to bring them on one of our shows, and I want to help them promote that movie. And I told them I wanted to talk about the Peter Pan movie as well. So keep an eye out. I'm working on it. But yes, I was aware of that one, and it's just great. Chuck Cage, I think Venom needs to come into play with the Spider-Man MCU. It leaves a lot on the table if they don't. How could it work with the Venomverse still going? A lot of villains and okay, so it can work easily and simple because that piece of that suit is in the MCU. That doesn't preclude anything going on Venom-wise from happening because the bulk of the suit went back to that universe. Went back to the universe that is Venom's universe. And all they would need to do if they ever wanted to is they could bring another Spider-Man. People think, oh, well, they won't do another Spider-Man while Holland is on the air, but Sony can do whatever the hell they want. They own that IP, and I don't think it would hurt. I don't think you can hurt Marvel's movies. I think you can. I think you can help a Sony movie by having a Garfield in there. I don't think they'll ever do it, but you could do it. I would have Garfield. I would have that universe merged and have Garfield as that universe's Spider-Man, or bring in a new Spider-Man and have that Venom there. But that Venom can tell its own symbiote story if they ever wanted to, because only a piece of that costume got left behind in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, both companies can use it if they want to. Like I said, I have never ever been a big fan of Tom Holland's Spider-Man stories. I'm a big fan of him as Spider-Man, but I thought, listen, the Marvel MCU for me, I call it the Marvel Clutter universe, the Clutterverse. There's just too much going on in it. It's too bloated. And there's a lot of great characters in there that get muted out because they become subservient or crowded over by other characters. You only have so much time on the screen to tell stories. And I thought that happened with Spider-Man. Spider-Man wasn't an Avenger until like the mid-2000s when they were desperate for a storyline. All right. Spider-Man, if Spider-Man was ever going to team up, and it was only temporarily with any group, it would have been Fantastic Four. That's a natural fit for him. That's his traditional team up when they first came out. If you look at Amazing Spider-Man #1, Fantastic Four is in there with the Chameleon, and there's always been like a brotherly relationship between him and the Human Torch because they were around the same age and they were going through the same problems. Jamming Spider-Man up with the Avengers, I've always hated it because he was always a junior character, and he is the character at one point that the Marvel Universe revolved around. He is the logo of Marvel. Whenever you bought a comic book for 30 years, Spider-Man was on there somewhere in your left-hand corner, lower left-hand corner. And to see him used in the way that they used him in Marvel and the Avengers kind of made just turned me off. That's why when Spider-Man No Way Home happened and they set him on his own path that didn't involve any of that, I'm looking forward to that. But as far as the Venom goes, they'll probably end up using it in not Civil War, but in the down the line in Secret Wars, where he gets the suit there. But like I said, you still have the Venom verse, and Venom is not in Marvel Cinematic Universe. He clearly went back to his own, so leaves that door open. It's going to be interesting to see, though. Did you ever watch Silent Run D? Run Silent Run D? No, I did not. Sorry. William, did you see Serpico when it came out in theaters? And big Serpico came out. I didn't see Serpico until VHS. I think I was a little young for Serpico. So I think Serpico came out in what year? 1973. I was born in 1974. So I did not see that movie. Sorry. What was the other one you asked me? Big Trouble in Little China when it came out. I think no. By the time that movie came out, I was completely full on horror. I didn't even want to go. Me and the old man didn't even go to movies that weren't science fiction and horror or superhero movies at that point. So no, I saw that one on like HBO or cable. So, all right, let's see where we're at here. 132. What are your opinions on Marvel and EA partnering up together and possibly doing games for Black Panther and Neymar? Not a gamer, but it's very logical. A lot of money in it, especially if you release it right as the movie is coming out. All right. That is it, guys. I have gotten to all the questions. Thank you guys for all coming. Once again, my channel is in the description. You can go like and subscribe there and share it around, and so we can get thousands and thousands of subscribers. I am going to be back on tomorrow at 12:05 a.m. I'll eat my dinner and do all that, and then I'm going to see if I can bring in some hosts either tomorrow or the next day. To make it so that we can bring in other people and I can handle it a little bit better than fumbling around trying to look at stuff. So thank you guys for showing up tonight. Thank you guys for being the best part of this interactive late night experience. And that's about it. And we will see you tomorrow at wow, we went a long time. We went hour. I think 1 hour and 34 minutes is our longest one. So once again, there you go. Go buy Top Gun on Blu-ray. It's available now. and keep an eye out because we will be doing some sort of giveaway. Thank you to Paramount Films for that, and thank you Paramount for putting out one of the best movies of the year, if not all time. It's in 1 point some odd billion. I never thought I'd see a Tom Cruise movie do it, but he did it, and I'm happy for him. So thank you, everybody, and I'm out of here.